Welcome. We bid you welcome. John Clauser coming to you from my music corner of the world. Look, notice what I did there. No Johnny Metal this time because I'm like, we're not really talking metal today. But first, from the Music Nut program, y'all please go check out his channel. Subscribe to it for God's sakes. He started a new series this past Saturday called Smithereen Saturday. You're gonna love it, folks. John the Music Nut, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well, my friend. How about you?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I couldn't bring the Johnny Metal name to this one because we're not talking heavy metal today.
Right.
Today we're talking about a classic album that I have basically grown up with. Supertramp, Crime for the Century. Yes, I even dressed for the occasion. Um, Golly, what can I say about this album really? It was 1974 when this came out. So this album turns 50 years old. Good Lord. God, we're getting old, folks. Um, Third album by the band. They had to do a little regrouping after their first two albums, and Rick Davies and Roger Hodgson, the basic main songwriters of the band, decided to kind of break things up, regroup. Don't know if the album cover for that second album helped them too much, though. What do you think?
I don't think so.
No, probably didn't help them too much. But anyway, so they regroup and they get Dougie Thompson on bass. They get Bob C. Benberg, as his name is titled. It's actually a different spelling of it. It's a fun name anyway. And John Anthony Hallowell on saxophones, clarinets, and backing vocals. So let's see, what did we do here? So chart wise, let's just throw that out there before we get into too much fun things because this album was kind of new to John, so I'll be interested to hear his take on it. But anyway, on the chart from 1974 to 79, down in Peter Kerr's neck of the woods and Bicycle Legs and all of our Australian mates down there, Harrison as well. I can't forget about Harrison. Number 15 on the Kent Music Report. Up in Canada, hits number 4. The Dutch album charts number 25. The German charts number 5. Down in Steve Deluxe's neck of the woods, number 12 goes to number 4 in the UK. US Billboard 200 peaked at number 38. This did well in some other charts or certifications rather. Down in Australia wins gold, which is in Australia is 20,000 copies. Canada, this did really well.
Right.
Goes diamond, which for in Canada is 1 million copies. France platinum, which is 400,000 copies. Germany gold for 250,000. New Zealand platinum, which for them is 15,000. Switzerland goes gold for with 25,000 copies. UK gold for 100,000, and in the States here goes just certifies gold at 500,000. Now I'm sure with all the many the reissues like this one for example, this is like a uh, deluxe has a live set from Hammersmith Odeon from the Crisis What Crisis album. I'm sure that it has gone considerably higher. Produced by Ken Scott, strings by Richard Hewson. John, have at it, my friend. Let me hear what you think about this thing.
Okay, thank you, John. Ken Scott produced this album. And if you're familiar with his work, you hear Ken Scott's fingerprints all over it. You have heard Ken Scott's work. He was one of the 5 engineers for the Beatles. He also engineered albums for David Bowie like Hunky Dory, The Man Who Sold the World, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. He did the engineering for George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. He did a lot of work with Stanley Clarke,
Mm.
Mahavishnu Orchestra, Birds of Fire. He did Visions of the Emerald Beyond, Elton John, Man Across the Water. If you know the Man Across the Water album and you listen to this album, you could tell this was done by Ken Scott. He
Mm.
also did Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player,
Yeah.
Honky Chateau. He did for Jeff Beck, he did Truth and Beckola. and then he did There and Back later on in 1980. He did Missing Persons, Spring Session M.
Hmm. Wow.
And he also did Kansas Final Confessions, Level 42, World Machine. So, oh, and let me not forget Billy Cobham. He did the first of several. He did Spectrum. He did Crosswinds, several other albums for him, and Harry Nielsen, Son of Schmielsen as well. So he does have a certain way that he records. It's outstanding. He always puts all the instruments in the right place. He adds the right amount of color and drama to his proceedings. You hear that no better than here on Crime and Century. Maybe not no better. I mean, but if you listen to those albums and you listen to this, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is a Ken Scott production. Now, the 3 songs that I knew off this album before I bought it a couple months ago, and just to give you a background, John always wanted to produce. John always wanted to do a show on this. And he talked about this when we first started getting together to do the weekly series that we do here on My Music Corner. And I didn't tell him, but a few months ago, oh, by the way, I'm ready. And I picked this up. And I'm glad I picked it up. And I'm glad that John wanted to do this. School, I knew the song School, but I didn't really know this was them. But this is a song that you heard this a little bit on AOR when they had much bigger playlists. You don't really hear it much now. It's an excellent opener. It's very slow and progressive. That harmonica rising from the ashes at the beginning before Roger's vocal kicks in, and you hear those lush guitar sounds there, and it gets mellow, and then it starts to get more dramatic when you hear those kids' voices in the background, and then the band kicks in. And the song stays in that mid-tempo progressive vein the whole time. It brings you in. It does feel like a strong opener because you can tell this is a very thematic album. This is a strong opener. Bloody Well Right, I knew that song. When I first heard this song when I was young, I thought was this Pink Floyd? Because Rick Davies' vocals were a lot like David Gilmour's at the time. It does have a bit of a Pink Floyd feel in here, but in the verses, but then it's just this great British pop in the choruses with a wonderful chorus, which is very catchy. His saxophone in here, John Hallowell's sax is like the secret weapon.
Yes.
He doesn't overplay. He doesn't play on every track, but when he comes in, it just adds the perfect amount of color to this song. This is one of their most enduring songs. You could tell why it is. And as I said, very catchy, and it's very Brit-pop, but it's Brit-pop meets, the harder elements of progressive rock. It's heavy. It's not fast. It stays in that same tempo throughout the song. Hide in Your Shell. Oh, wonderful. This is Roger Hodgson does the vocal on this. This is just an earworm. The chorus on here is magnificent. If this was shorter, I can hear this on the radio back in 1974 because it has that kind of craftsmanship that you heard on the great singles of that time. Again, the saxophone on here works perfect on the choruses. Very melodic. Great track. A lot of class on there. Excellent song. Great call and response on here between Roger and the band. Asylum. Elegant British pop music with a desperate lyric, deep lyric. This is Rick Davies' baby here. This is very classy and gets very grandiose as it goes on. If you listen to this, how the strings are recorded on here, very Beatles Abbey Road version. Abbey Road album. Reminds me of Golden Slumbers from that album.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent song here. And this It's just the guitar lines are very sparse, but they add just the right amount of ambiance. The strings, the drumming. One thing I could say, Bob C. Benberg's drumming on here, what he uses restraint so well. He knows exactly what to play and when to play it. Excellent drumming performance here. He's not going crazy, but he adds the perfect amount of drama to each song. And he does that on Asylum as well as the rest of the album. Dreamer. This is the most pop song of the album. This song would later be released on their live album, Paris, and go to number 15 on the US charts. This is very bouncy pop. The piano's very dominant throughout. Chorus is a killer. The bridge in here is very good. The high-pitched vocals from Roger really work. The vocals are recorded really well, especially as the song goes on, how his vocals will echo at times. This is the most pop song on the album. Great call and response here between Roger and the band as well. Excuse me. Rudy. Now, this feels like two songs. It's more akin to introspective pop at the beginning. This is a Rick Davies song. I keep wanting to say Ray Davies, but it's Rick Davies. So this song is very good, and it really gets good when it gets more progressive. And when the guitar comes in here. And then the call and response in the bridge between Rick and Roger is spectacular. I can see why this is a fan favorite, because this song is wonderful. Excellent. If everyone was listening, piano pop, similar to what Elton John was doing at this time. This would make a great deep cut on those great early to mid 70s albums by Elton John. The clarinet solo by John is here. John Anthony Hellowell is wonderful. It really complements this song very well. Now, Crime of the Century is the closer. Very sparse on the vocals. Very Pink Floyd in its guitar work. But when I say Pink Floyd, I don't mean they sound just like Pink Floyd. It's reminiscent of Pink Floyd. So let me just specify that. At 2:12, after it starts out very slow, the piano notes are more dramatic and rhythmic, and then the drums kick in. The guitar is recorded really well. And then the strings add a lot of ambiance in here too. When you hear the strings on here, it sounds a little like Electric Light Orchestra, but where on their albums, it's more dominant. Here, it just adds the perfect amount of color. The sax near the end, when the sax and the strings are playing at the same time, magnificent. It'll bring a tear to your eye, the way it ends. Excellent closer. Thank you, John, for introducing me to this album, because I'm going to pick up Paris next.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, God, I gotta read up on Paris. And I'm reading it's a fantastic live album. Although some people say it sounds too close to the original performances. But if they're playing this kind of music, which is challenging, and if they're nailing this down, and supposedly very few overdubs on it, which is saying a lot for a live album in that era.
Yep.
I'm getting my hands on that bad boy. And I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10.
Nice.
Thank you.
I think Todd Evans will be cheering for you on that one, because I think I remember him saying he's a very big Paris fan of that album. He really
Todd has a lot of good taste.
Todd has some wonderful taste. So oh gosh, where do I go with this? So one of the things I always admired about how they, like, when you look at the lyric sheets, it's really kind of cool, because if you notice on the cover here where it says Richard Davies is, and his vocals are in yellow. That was for kids like me who was looking at their sister's album, when they had it back in the day, and they're like, oh, okay, so that guy's So he's singing the yellow lines. Oh, okay. Silly things that you pick up on when you're an elementary school kid and you're listening to this stuff along with your sister. Um, that's about how long I've known this album. So, you know, oh, gosh, I started writing notes for this thing and I'm like, no, I think I'm just going to go off the cuff for the most part for this one because, school, you get that nice, like you say, that quiet opening, and it was weird. I was listening to it again with the headphones. And if you really, and this was on that was on this remaster version. And you can hear a little bit of Halliwell's clarinet. Very sparse, it's very light, but boy, you can hear it along with the guitar lines. And it's kind of cool to hear that. And then of course you get the build of the kids playing on the school playground and as everything just starts building up, and then you get the little girl scream, which brings the whole band in, which really changes the atmosphere of the song. You know, obviously meant to do that there was an intentional reason they did that. But here again, this is a song really just talking about maybe poking fun at the educational system. They want to make sure you learn the golden rule, but they're really not teaching you about life per se. So, maybe that's how it was back in those days in the boarding schools. But
Right.
it's still a very poignant song. There's still some really strong lyrics here, and I think it's something that you can certainly take with you into your life as you go along. But just such good bouncy pop, and it's that one middle section where they kind of go off with the piano and then the guitar. It's great, great song, great opener. Always was one of my favorites. Quite right, you bloody well right. You gotta love some of that guitar muscle Roger was doing in this song.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, yeah.
Roger was, I mean, he's really more of an acoustic player, but boy, he really was stretching some electric muscle with this on this album in particular. You get that nice, get that nice little jangly little riff. So you get some kind of heavy elements, but then you get to the chorus and then kind of the outro, and it's just this nice, bouncy, jazzy rock kind of art rocky kind of song that just it's just a completely different feel from the verses where you had Rick Davies's vocal being a little bit more harsher sounding, but then it's just this, I don't know, like you're writing out of a movie or a TV show or something.
Right.
It kind of has that kind of feel to it, but it's just another great song. Hide in Your Shell, gosh, I mean, this is another one of those songs where it's like you're talking about being confused in life and the insecurities that everybody deals with. And it dawned on me, it's like maybe that's why musicians write these kind of songs. Because that's their own therapy of how they, then they release it out into the world, and you know, thank goodness it became a big hit, the album itself, because a lot of people got to hear it. So it really kind of helps them in their direction of life, I guess you could say. But oh my goodness. One of the lines that was kind of hitting me a little bit. Let's see, you got demons in your closet. Let's see. I'm trying to get that right line here. Da, 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 da. Boy, where am I? Yeah, yeah. But you've got demons in your closet and you're just screaming out to stop it, saying life's begun to cheat you. Friends are out to beat you. Grab on what you can scramble for. I hear some of that and I think, mental illness, maybe a little bit,
Mhm.
but the whole insecurity. But again, maybe you're right. It is a little long, but I think you need that almost 7 minute length to tell the story of this song. But it's a really strong Roger song. One of my favorites from this album. Asylum, another song that really just talks about mental illness here again. Another epic song here again, like you said, Rick's Baby. There's a still love this song. Closes out side A again. Just you know, just gonna throw this out there. I've been kind of dealing with my own little stuff. So a lot of these lyrics are kind of hitting a little home too, a little too much close to home here lately. So, but I love this song. Please don't arrange to have me sent to no asylum. Really, I'm okay, folks. Really, I'm good. Anyway, great album closer or side closer again. I always do that. Side closer. Let's flip it over. Dreamer. I'm not talking Tommy Dreamer. No, just regular Dreamer here. Uh, just one of those Roger songs where when he wrote it, it was like one of the first songs he wrote on like a Wurlitzer piano, and boy, he was just having so much fun just banging this thing out, and you could hear the joy in his voice as he sings this song. It's just another just beautiful pop song, lovely little song. Rudy. More I listened to this song, and I thought, this is a song about me. Now, you're probably wondering why am I saying that? So, Rudy's on a train to nowhere, halfway down the line. He doesn't want to get there, but still he needs time. It's like you're just kind of it's not that I'm right, I'm at this point right now, but there's like a point in your life where you're trying to figure out where your life is, and you're just kind of wandering through aimlessly, and that's kind of what Rudy is. There's so much about Rudy that you just I think kind of autobiographical, a little bit of Rick from what I understand. Again, you have nice little elements, but then you get this buildup that leads to that call and response where you get that, Roger playing that wah guitar, that kind of that disco-y flavor, but it's not disco because you hear Bob back there and he's just building and building. Then the strings, and then you get that call and response. Great, perfect call and response. But then you get that to the end of the song, and what is it? How is it that he puts it? Now he's come out of the movie numb of all the pain, sad, but in a while he'll be back on his train. And I just thought, man, there's so many people out in the world that are still kind of wandering around aimlessly like that. But man, such a powerful, and again, at 7 minutes long, you need that length to tell the story. You couldn't tell a story like that in a dreamer like length of 3.5 minutes. No, you had to stretch this one out.
Right.
If everyone is listening, here again, it's kind of that play of the Shakespeare quote, all the world's a stage and all that, and who's real, what's real. You maybe all take time to listen to people more. Again, therapy. That's probably what these guys were dealing with. So they write it in a song and boom, now people are actually listening to the band. But again, a song just about just wanting to you get that part where the clarinet really shines, and that whole section. And there was a song that came to my mind when you talked about Elton John. And I think a song from like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe like Sweet Painted Lady
Yes.
or something along that line kind of brings to mind a little bit. But man, it's still this is if somebody had to ask me to rank these songs, I couldn't tell you how I would even rank them because they're all fantastic songs. I couldn't tell you what to put on the bottom. It'd be an 8-way tie for number one. Um, the title track, you get that nice sparse piano with Rick, again another song about corruption and those in power and all these kind of things. Gee, I don't know. Kind of sounds. Are we about to see a crime of the century coming up in November? No, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, again, you get that the vocals are done, and then the music just kind of drifts off, but you get that dun 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 boom, dun 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 boom, dun 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 boom. Oh. You talk about how this album was recorded, the way they do Bob's drums for this. There were times where it needed to be emphatic, and then there are times it just needed just to be right there. And boy, Tom or Ken Scott knew how to bring all of those elements into the right spots. For this being a third album of a band that got revamped, for them to be crafting these kind of songs, in my opinion, strong. I could, if I had to, I would give this an 11 if I could. I mean, that's how much I love this album so much. But yes, all the themes of loneliness and mental health and things like that, very prevalent, and it was certainly hitting home for me today. So, yes, I'm thankful we got to talk about this album in a great way. And again, maybe not an album or a metal album, but I'll tell you what, it's so strong, it's so good. But yeah, I have my sister to thank for this one. I can remember again seeing the album and this weird cover of what's this guy doing with holding on to prison bars in space. I'm like, what? What? I don't get it, but didn't matter because the music in here is rules. So so there you go. They would follow this up with an album called Crisis, What Crisis, which also has a very bizarre cover as well. You have a guy sunning himself and he looks like he's in like some chemical waste dump or something, or some kind of dump or something. But which which was an interesting album because really no hits from that. But then like what I think the next album was in even in the quieter moments, which is where they really broke out with like
Give a little bit.
every give a little bit and songs like that. And then of course the live album and then the Breakfast in America, which would really blow them up. But it's just a shame that at this point Rick and Rogers like gelling was really good. It just seems like the longer it went, the connection just kept being pulled further and further apart. Until about the early 80s when Rogers finally decided he was just going to go on and do his own thing. And, Supertramp really didn't last much after that. Maybe an album or two, but that was about it. Um, so, so John, I don't know if you have any other parting thoughts or any other info from this era that you want to throw out there.
I have tour dates.
Ooh, okay.
Well, before we go on,
Yeah.
the second disc of that set that you have,
Mhm.
how is that live set on there?
It's been a
For someone
while.
I've
It's
never
been a
heard.
little while since I've listened to it. So
Okay.
I don't remember how good it is. But I will tell you that they do the entire album in its entirety. They break it up.
Okay.
Now this was from 1975, the recording. So this is actually but this is by this point, Crisis What Crisis had come out. So it was on that tour. So the remaining songs, except for one other cover, are basically songs from that Crisis What Crisis album. So but it's been a really long time, and I meant to listen to this but I was so bent on just getting the studio tracks, I completely forgot. So, yeah, I needed to go back to listen to that. But from what I understand, from what I remember, I think it's a really good recording.
Excellent. All right. So they did 86 dates for Crime of the Century.
Hmm, okay.
Okay, they did 51 in Europe, 35 in North America. Of those dates in Europe, 41 were in the UK. The North American dates, 24 were in the United States, 11 in Canada. The tour started September 22, 1974 at King's Road Theatre in Chelsea, England. They played Liverpool Stadium, Liverpool, England, Guildford Civic Hall, Guildford, England, Manchester University, Manchester, England, Glasgow City Halls, and Glasgow, Scotland. Just before I go on with the dates, in Europe, Krista Berg was playing with them. Krista
Hmm.
Berg wouldn't he was recording for a long time before he made it in the States. The songs he's best known for in the States are Don't Pay the Ferryman from the Getaway album
Hmm.
and his huge single, The Lady in Red, which is a beautiful ballad. It was from 86, I believe.
Yeah.
The other opener is Gallagher and Lyle. If you know anything about Gallagher and Lyle, please put it in the comments because I did not know of this act. And just to emphasize, for the songs played on this tour from Crime of the Century, all of them. And and they also played a few songs from what would be Crisis, What Crisis, such as Lady, Sister Moonshine, Just a Normal Day, and Another Man's Woman. Continuing on with the tour dates. Lampeter University, Lampeter, Wales, Winter Gardens, Bournemouth, England, Sheffield City Hall, Sheffield, England, New Theatre, Clifford, England, Turf Ship, Breda, Netherlands, Tivoli in Copenhagen, Denmark, University in Stockholm, Sweden, Le Bataclan in Paris, France, Hammersmith Odeon in London, England. Then they come to the States and Canada. And Krista Berg was also on this tour as well. Although they did play at the Beacon Theater in New York, New York. And on that bill, they were definitely opening here because also on this bill was Santana and Chicago. I'm thinking Chicago headline this one. Or maybe a co-headline between Chicago and Santana.
Right.
Excuse me. They played at Erlanger Theater in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Massey Hall in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Memorial Hall in Kansas City, Kansas, the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, Santa Monica, California, Commodore Ballroom, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, Texas Hall, Arlington, Texas, Ottawa Civic Center, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. They played the Reading Festival 75 in Reading, England. Also on the bill that day, August 23, 1975, a band called Babe Ruth.
Got nothing on that one.
Yep, me neither. Know all about the baseball player. Also know about the candy bar Baby Ruth.
Yep.
Don't know about the band.
Nope. Nope.
Ozark Mountain Daredevils, best known for the song Jackie Blue.
Yeah.
Band called Snafu. Thin Lizzy. Headliner, had to be the headliner.
Yeah.
Yes. No, yes. It was yes. Yeah. Thin Lizzy were just making their way in 75. Yes. Yeah. Yes, we're already huge. Yes, we're playing stadiums in the States.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Last show they did on this tour, Big Rock Show in Munich, Germany. So there you go. Oh, Krista Berg, he was promoting the album Spanish Train and Other Stories. Just wanted to put that out there.
Okay.
So there you go.
So while you were doing that, I was looking up Gallagher and Lyle. So they were a Scottish musical duo comprising of Benny Gallagher and Graham Lyle. Their style mainly consisted of pop, soft and folk rock oriented songs.
Okay.
They were signed to A&M, which was Supertramp's label. So makes sense that they would probably pair them up with that. Another little interesting tidbit that I had read about was you mentioned Thin Lizzy. Well, a future member, I don't think he was with Thin Lizzy at this point, but Scott Gorham.
He would have been Thin Lizzy in 75 because the first album he played with them was Nightlife, and that was in 74. That was when him and Brian Robertson joined.
Okay. He is a guest vocal or backup vocal on Hide in Your Shell.
Oh, okay.
And apparently he is Bob C. Benberg's brother-in-law, or at least it was at the time. So
I didn't know that.
I'm going by what Wiki's saying on that one.
Nice.
So I'm kind of between Wiki and I think there was some information in here that I thought about. I was like, oh, well, that's how he got in there. So there you go. But yeah. So it sounds like those are songs because it sounds like they wrote and demoed a lot of songs for this album. It was like 40 something songs. So it sounds like those four that you mentioned, which are the same ones that's on this one. That was probably what they probably just used those to carry into Crisis What Crisis and go from there. But yeah, they I don't know when they would have touched anything from their first two albums. It sounded like they completely ignored them completely.
Yeah, it's like clean slate with Crime of the Century, and we'll go from there.
Pretty much. I mean, think about this. I mean, I bet even Yes probably could do that because I think by the time like Steve Howe got into the band with like the Yes album and stuff like that, I don't think they barely touched those first two out. Like the Yes and the Time and a Word very much. If they did, it was very little, and they moved on to much bigger and better things. But Yeah, so there you go. But all right, folks. Supertramp, an album that turns 50 this year. Tell us what you think about it. Do the like, share, subscribe thing. As I said, go check out the Music Nut program. You'll love it. It's going to be good stuff when he puts stuff out there. Um, let's see. I know there's all kinds of odd little things that he and I are both showing up on. So we'll just do our best to kind of throw it all out there as we are able. But next week, oh boy, next week we got us a special guest. That I think y'all will accept what will start in September. So, for John the Music Nut, John Clauser, coming to you from my music corner of the world. Rock forever. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.